Each year, thousands of cattle make their way through these yards near Adelaide River in the Northern Territory.
We receive cattle obviously going for export, and involves weighing them in, unloading them, checking their welfare.
The quarantine's the biggest issue. We've got to monitor it, so we're all over animals that are coming in, having a good look, inspections daily.
Corin Underwood says the pre-export quarantine depot is to animals as the nearby Howard Springs facility was to humans during the pandemic.
Basically, relating it to humans with COVID, how we isolated ourselves to stop the spread. That's what we're doing here, and that's what biosecurity is. Just isolating the animals to check they're in good health and to stop outside diseases coming in, stop the spread, really.
Since lumpy skin disease was found in cattle on the Indonesian island of Sumatra in March, Camelli Station is boosting biosecurity by using extra ear tags.
We're using these fly tags as a way of protecting them over there. We put them in here, and then they have in their ear, and they have 12 weeks coverage, so it should cover them for the majority of the time they're over there until they're slaughtered.
It sounds a bit like maybe if you or I got out the Bushmans or the Red or Aerogard or the Mozzie spray.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the cattle version.
Australia's free of lumpy skin disease, and by protecting export cattle and buffalo like this, it's hoped the spread of disease in neighbouring countries will slow.
You don't want the cattle to get ill. It's like you don't want your dog or cat or any pet to get ill. Same thing, it will highly impact the productivity. It will really affect this industry if lumpy skin gets over here.
At this midweek meeting in Katherine, cattlemen are being briefed on the risks associated with the virus.
We're hoping we can keep this out, but in the eventuality that it does get in, we want to be as best prepared as possible.
Cattle producer Justin Dyer says an incursion would be an animal welfare disaster.
This disease is real, it's imminent, I believe. It's on our doorstep, and we really need to be seriously preparing for it. It's a horrendous disease, forms open wounds, lesions all over the body of the animal, and that alone can lead to be fatal.
Humans can't catch lumpy skin disease, and there's no food safety implications for people who eat meat from infected animals. But it can be transmitted to cattle and buffalo via insects such as flies, mosquitoes and possibly ticks. And that's cause for plenty of concern for Justin Dyer.
It's probably worst case scenario. It's something that we've never seen here in Australia, and it's probably as bad as it gets.
Mortality rates are relatively low, but lumpy skin can cause major production losses. The Northern Territory's chief vet wants lumpy skin disease in the spotlight.
It's really the forgotten disease that has been overshadowed by foot and mouth disease outbreak.
Anna, how are you today? I'm good, thank you, Sue. How are you?
I'm good. It does spread at quite a rapid rate with those insects, so it could be, over 10 kilometres a day potentially that it is spreading, conceivably up to, 25, 28 kilometres a day.
Test kits like this one are being issued across Northern Australia, so livestock managers can send suspicious samples to a Darwin lab for review.
Today I'm looking at lumpy skin disease rule-out skin biopsies from a cow.
And it's not lumpy skin disease?
No, it isn't, luckily.
So what is it?
It turns out to be ringworm, which is a skin fungus.
Excellent.
Sue Fitzpatrick says authorities have a plan should lumpy skin be detected in Australia.
The first thing that you would do would be to slaughter out, as you put it, the infected animals on the property and dispose of them immediately. You would also put a number of other restrictions in place to look at the tracing and surveillance of animals around those infected properties, and potentially those animals could also be slaughtered. That would be where we would look at a vaccination program.
For now, there's no pre-incursion vaccine available.
There's certainly research underway looking at mRNA vaccines, but they're at least 12 to 18 months away.
Originating in Africa, lumpy skin disease has spread through Asia, the Middle East and parts of Europe, leaving many in Australia's livestock industry wondering when, not if, the disease will get here.
I believe it is inevitable. I think we are in a race.
Experts say there's a 28% chance of a lumpy skin disease outbreak in Australia in the next 5 years, compared to an 11.6% chance of a foot and mouth outbreak.
There is other experts that believe that lumpy skin disease, given the patterns of spread around the world, will enter Australia, so 100% probability, but the timeline for that's unknown. It could be potentially as early as this wet season, but it could be 10 years away.
Lumpy skin is going to be a lot harder to hold out than foot and mouth. Foot baths at airports aren't going to stop lumpy skin. You know, it can blow across on the wind in mosquitoes and insects and whatever.
At Bridge Creek Station, about 100 kilometres south of Darwin, Don White fears if lumpy skin disease was found in Australia, it would spread far and wide.
It'd be almost impossible to control if it got in up here due to the large areas of uncontrolled feral animals that could transmit it.
He believes the best way to prevent an incursion is by helping Indonesia deal with its lumpy skin outbreak.
And your best option would be control it in your neighbours. Work with Indonesia and hold it back, especially with lumpy skin, you know, like, because it's airborne. So the further you can hold it back from your border, the less risk you've got of it coming in, you know. So, and that would be a good trade relation with Indonesia anyway, if you went in there and helped them control it.
Droughts, trade bans, low prices. The northern cattle industry is used to dealing with plenty of uncertainty, but there's no doubt the threat of livestock disease outbreaks in neighbouring countries is unsettling. If there was to be an incursion of lumpy skin disease in Australia, you could bet that this trade would come to a stop.
It's not on the export trade protocol, so you can't actually import into Indonesia. And then there's no way you're going to move cattle south and risk, you know, moving the disease quicker than it's already going to move.
In terms of where we are with trade protocols, we're exposed. We need to have discussions with our export markets around what we're doing in preparedness and what we're doing in terms of if a disease gets here, here's the things that we're going to do.
The NT Cattlemen's Association wants the federal government negotiating trade conditions now so that if lumpy skin disease does get into Australia, producers can continue to export both live cattle and processed meat.
I mean, obviously, that's going to differ depending on markets. Some markets we're going to be able to approach really easily, others we're going to need to be very careful. So we are asking the government and have been calling on the government to begin those conversations, and we rely on their expertise in how we actually implement that in those discussions.
An incursion of lumpy skin in Australia would cost $7.4 billion in the first year alone. Will Evans wants to ensure Northern Australia is as well protected as possible.
I think we need to see an improved government responsiveness in this space. In the last 3 years, we've had some animal diseases detected and pests detected in Northern Australia. So we've had ehrlichiosis detected in WA, which is obviously a tick disease for dogs. By the time we realised it was in the Northern Territory, it had made its way to Queensland. We've had fall armyworm detected in the Cape, and by the time we detected it there, it was in the Douglas-Daly in the Northern Territory. And obviously with Japanese encephalitis, we're not sure that it got into Tiwi first or whether it got into a number of places in Northern Australia. But it's now spread as far as South Australia and all the way down the East Coast. So we need to see that focus come back onto Northern biosecurity, and we need to be empowering people on the ground to be getting as prepared as possible. We need to be acting like it is inevitable. We want to be as prepared as possible by this wet season and really try and be ready for it if it does come in now. And then obviously we've got a little bit of time next year, if we don't get it this wet, to be ready for the next one.